Talking technology, Mathew Dickerson, good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, Nick.
Before we get stuck into it, did you get a little bit of a wobble from the earthquake that we've just been talking about?
I was a bit confused, I must admit, Nick. I was sitting in my studio and I've got a boom microphone that comes across in front of me and it started moving and I couldn't feel anything, but I could just see this wobbling and I went, what's going on with that? I thought, maybe someone in the house has turned the air conditioning on and it's blowing some air on that. And I kind of put it in the back of my mind, didn't worry about it. And when I walked out of my studio, my daughter talked about this earthquake and I went, oh, hold on, that's what that was.
How absolutely bizarre, incredible to think that it could happen so far away. And we're still getting reports of people feeling it all the way up New South Wales. Yeah. We're not talking about earthquakes, though. No. I'm trying to make a bit of a list of how many times you and I have talked about new ways to deliver high-speed internet. And we've gone through a few of them before, but have we ever talked about lasers?
We haven't talked about lasers, and how can we forget about lasers? Lasers are cool anyway, so we should be talking about lasers more often. But there's a famous quote from Thomas Edison who said when he was talking about a battery technology he was trying to develop, and he'd found 10,000 ways it wouldn't work, and someone said, you've had 10,000 failures. And he said, no, I've just found 10,000 ways it didn't work. And it could almost apply in this scenario. Alphabet, which is the parent company of Google, of course, they've been working on Project Loon for many years. They wanted to give internet access to some remote areas of Africa and various countries around the world. And they tried helium balloons and they tried solar-powered planes and solar-powered drones. Anyway, they shut down that project earlier on this year. But one of the technologies that they used in that was delivering high-speed internet via laser. So even though they're not using that in Project Loon anymore, they said, well, that technology we developed, sure, we're not going to use it the way we thought we were going to use it, but maybe getting internet access from one part of a remote country or remote area to another part would make sense. And they found a particular situation in the Congo where there's two towns that are only about 5 kilometres apart as the crow flies, but there's a raging river between the two of them. So getting a cable from town A to town B across this river is very difficult, or probably more expensive is more the real problem with it. So they've got cabling at the moment that runs around a 400 kilometre round trip. But now they've set up a laser in one side and a laser on the other side, and they're getting 20 gigabits per second between those two lasers to connect those two towns with their internet. So they've been testing this for the last 20 days, and so far they've transferred 700 terabytes of data across that link. Now, again, this is the first test case. If they can get these sort of speeds over 5 kilometres, they'll start to extend that a bit further. And these lasers are very focused, so you're not losing a lot as you keep going further and further away. There will be a limit, obviously, at some point. But so this technology to try and get internet access from one place to another, as long as you don't have foggy conditions, and you can imagine in the Congo, not a lot of fog around there, then these lasers will be a fantastic solution.
It sounds like science fiction, but of course it's very similar to the technology we already use with fibre optic cables.
Yeah, that's right. It's still using light and pulses of light. It's turning those pulses of light on and off, obviously very quickly, on and off to simulate ones and zeros. So you're right, the actual process of doing it is not that difficult, but normally trying to get lasers focused at distance is the real issue here. The actual units themselves, and I looked at some pictures of them, and they're self-focusing. So what they do is they sit there and look for the other laser at the other end, and obviously they've got to be able to transmit in both directions, and then they self-tune to actually get to the point where they're getting very precise the way they do it so that they're getting as much data through as possible, about 99.9%, which is not as reliable as fibre optic cable yet, but this is really a fairly early version of this.
And a remarkable achievement. As you said, those speeds are actually really impressive. You related it back to Thomas Edison working on battery technology. Moving on with that, battery technology when it comes to electric cars always seems to have been the sticking point for people. Are we getting the range we need? It looks like one company thinks they might have fixed at least some of that problem.
Oh, that was a very nice segue, Nick. I'm very impressed. Yeah, Lucid Air, as with everyone else across the world, has Tesla as their target. Now, Tesla has a car that's got a range of about 650 kilometres, and most people go, that's not too bad, but I'd like a bit further than that. I want to be able to drive Dubbo to Sydney and back again, for example. Lucid Air's latest version has got an official range over 800 kilometres, and this is the first electric vehicle that's been available over 800. Now, that starts to feel pretty safe, pretty comfortable with that sort of range. The EPA in America has given an official rating of 836 kilometres. And so the idea here is obviously there's two ways that we're going to really get people comfortable with electric vehicles. Make the charging time very quick, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that's have to go into that technology to do that. Keep the battery cooled, keep enough power going to a charging station, or forget about that and just give the range on the cars to be so long that people say, well, I can do my whole trip I need to do and I can charge up when I come back home. And that's really the approach of Lucid Air. They're saying, let's just make the range so good that people aren't worried about range anxiety. They're not worried about how quickly can I charge up somewhere. The downside, Nick, is that batteries are expensive. And this particular model, US $169,000. So by the time it comes here, I can't see it being under $230, if in fact it comes here at all. Obviously, the market in America is so big and so going so quickly at the moment, they may just focus on America. But it's not going to be cheap. And that's mainly based around two things. The battery size, 113 kilowatt hour battery. So Tesla's largest battery is a 100 kilowatt hour battery. So there's a bit of expense in that battery. Lucid also claim that their motor technology is better than Tesla's. Of course they claim that, but their motor technology is more efficient than a Tesla, and therefore they're getting the extra range out of a bigger battery and more efficient motors. Keep in mind that if you were in America right now and you walked into a dealership, which they don't exist, but if you went online to buy a Lucid Air, you can't buy them yet. $10 billion has been invested in Lucid Air so far, and they still have not sold their first vehicle. Mind you, they're not far away, and they've got these prototypes that are being driven around right now. They've got about 100 prototypes being out there, tested by various people and various magazines, that type of thing. But in probably a month's time, you'll be able to start buying Lucid Airs, and I think they'll be a good competitor for Tesla.
836 kilometres is going to make them an absolutely amazing competitor. Getting off the road and into space, I'm pretty excited about this. NASA on target to get a new telescope up, I think, by the end of this year. Yeah,
December 18 is the magic date. NASA's been working towards that. We've had the Hubble for about 30 years now, and the Hubble has given us...
That long?
Yeah, it is. It's incredible, isn't it? Makes us feel old. Maybe we were in nappies, Nick, when that happened.
We were not.
But the Hubble has given us some incredible photography. The Hubble, for most people are surprised by it. They think it's been sent way to deep space. The Hubble only sits a few hundred kilometres above the Earth. The real focus for the Hubble, excuse the bad pun, was to get away from Earth's atmosphere. Once you get past the atmosphere, you suddenly can get much clearer pictures. And we've been seeing to very deep space with the Hubble. We've learned all sorts of things from the Hubble in that 30 years it's been up there. But as with everything in technology, it's time to upgrade. So the James Webb Telescope, forget about a few hundred kilometres, they're going 1.6 million kilometres away from Earth to get much deeper into space, and they're referring to it colloquially as the first light telescope, because they believe with this telescope they may well get to see back to the first light in the universe from the original Big Bang. Now, obviously, the universe is expanding. There's light coming to us that's hitting us that might have happened billions of years ago. So they're going to see way back into the deep, dark history of our universe. And what we'll learn from that, we don't know. The telescope itself, though, the technology on it is quite incredible. You've got temperatures of about minus 236 degrees Celsius that it needs to operate at. It's obviously very little atmosphere out there, a 6 metre wide mirror, and at 1.6 million kilometres, if you want to change where it's pointing, every command you send to it will take about 6 seconds before it even reaches the telescope, because obviously it's travelling at the speed of light, but 1.6 million kilometres takes a bit of time to get there. So really incredible technology, but we won't see pictures, Nick, until about the middle of next year, because the calibration process, you might get frustrated when your laser printer takes 30 seconds to calibrate. It's a 6-month calibration process.
Oh, wow. Look, I think they learned a lot from Hubble. I mean, we may have been in nappies, as you so kindly suggested, but you remember a lot of talk about how whether it was doing the job it was supposed to do. This is a remarkable achievement.
Yeah, it will be. And again, they've used the learnings from Hubble, and they've obviously taken that all across to the James Webb. And then technology's moved on in 30 years' time, so we've got things that are much better in that time frame. So I think it will be really exciting what we see from this, say, by the middle of next year, and then going forward from there.
I can't wait. Mathew Dickerson, always good to chat. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nick.